Awesome.
Good evening, Oriole Nation. Get the whole crew.
Sure. I know, but I also was like, he's got all three of those, he's got three kids. And he's coaching, yeah, his parents. That's what I was like, I don't want to ask.
All right, we ready to roll? We are back in open session. So our first item in open session is board mission statement and agreements.
Yeah, the board mission statement is we will develop policy that is representative of our community, set goals, and lead our district by collaborating. And truly everything that's leading that is our kids. And so when we think of our beliefs and what our cultural playbook is, we stand up and own it. We are one, encourage to grow. And stand up and own it is really individually taking the time to intentionally be the best person you can possibly be and respond the best way you possibly can with any event that you take on. That we are one is that we have to do this together. We can't do it by ourselves. We need to lean in on each other's strengths and move forward together. And then finally, courage to grow, embracing productive discomfort, working, through and continuously being a learner is really our focus as a district.
All right. Next item is board member share a moment of pride. So opportunity for us to celebrate a little bit of what since the last session we had.
I can start.
Yeah.
I had a chance to join a group of 18 boys and 7 girls, along with a couple of other coaches and parent chaperones to Iowa for a wrestling camp, and had a really good experience with the kids. They had a mixture of getting put out of their comfort zone against some pretty stiff competition, as well as having some fun, learned some technique from 2 Division I national champions from this past year, 2-time Division II national champ, and 2-time All-American. So it was just exposed to a pretty fun atmosphere and good instruction and technique and all that good stuff. So happy to be a part of that, and it was fun. It was everyone was pretty tuckered out by the time we got home,
Including yourself.
Right? Especially me. Yeah. Nice. All right. Thank you. You want to go next, Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the Walleye Weekend volunteers that helped at the Oriole Nation, and especially staff who it was after school was out for the summer and they still wanted to help out and still came in, and I'm sure enjoyed what they did, interacting with the community and each other, and that really drives that whole Oriole Nation concept. And that, and in addition, I don't want to forget the community members too that are part of that. So
cool.
I thought graduation went really well, so I wanted to give a shout out to Wayne and his team for pulling herd-nosed cats and I was going to bring up the Oriole Nation at Walleye Weekend too. Besides all the people Steve mentioned, the boys basketball team showed up at the end and helped tear that whole place down. They spent several hours. And I thought it was a good way to give back to Oriole Nation because they do so much for our athletes.
We had a couple of things along the same lines of graduation. 5th grade graduation was really awesome. It was a full house. I think you said most people who have attended. So that was really awesome to see. FLC Olympics at the end of the school year. It's always one of my favorite days. And the amount of parents who volunteer and just the staff that put that on. It's a really fun day. My son attended strength and conditioning today at the high school for the first time. And so I just want to say a shout out to Talon for putting that on, because there was probably like 40 young kids there. And I think that's really awesome, like just a testament to the things that he's doing to try and grow our sports program. So And then summer school, my kids went to summer school the last 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, they went to just like the half day, typical summer school. They had a lot of fun. And then last week they went to Camp Convention. That was so cool. Like my son is one that's moaning and groaning about going to school every day, and he loved it. So, and I have not heard any bad things about it from anybody. So thank you for you two for putting that on, and then all the staff that put in some time during the summer to do that.
Nice. Yeah, you guys, everything I had listed, I'll just add to the graduation, all the events, like also to our custodians and the team that kind of make it look right and clean it up after. I think it's a big deal. So thank you to them. Cool. All right. It was a busy time, May. May you blink and it's done. Next is consent agenda. So we have a few items on there. First is our treasurer's report. In addition to that, we have adoption of our minutes from the board education meeting from May 18th. So just look for approval or motion to approve the consent agenda for this month.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
When you ready, Rick?
Okay, Humpner,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Billings,
Yes.
Mathew, yes, Geckerman.
Yes. Next item on our agenda is our clerk's report. So again, back to you, Rick.
People Backpack Buddies, Wayne and Janice Shingen donated $50 in May and $50 in June.
Nice.
Consistently
Every
present.
month. That's awesome. Thank you to them. Our next item is around citizens' comments. I will open it up, and I'm pretty confident we have no community members in the boardroom today, but if they are, feel free to share comments. Okay, we'll move on. So next item is you, Dr.
Wonderful.
Mino.
Thank you so much. And just so everyone knows is that when we report out, we're reporting out on our strategic plan, our 4 core areas, financial operations, learning and academics, communication engagement, and then safe and healthy emotional schools. So when we're reporting some of these pieces out, we just want to make sure that you all know that it comes from those different areas. I'm going to start out because we got a special audience member, and I want to make sure that he gets recognized here. And if he chooses to leave, he can at any point in time. But we've got a new hire that we'll be looking at the very end here for board approval. Tony Pruce is with us, and I don't know, Tony, if you want to say a couple things about who you are and where you're coming from, and
Back
What-
here, is this?
that's
yeah,
fine.
you guys are
Perfect.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Tony Pruce, and I'm bringing 27 years of K-12 experience, 26 years of K-12 experience. Wanted to try something a little bit different. So I transitioned to the Wisconsin Department of Corrections, and last year I've been working with adult incarcerated women, which has been very interesting. It's been very eye-opening. A lot of diversity, both obviously not gender-wise because it's all women, but learning style-wise, and just with what they bring to the table. I'm working with some people that haven't been in high school since the 1980s. I'm working with other people that haven't been in high school the last couple of years. So I basically help them earn their GED is what I'm doing. And it's been an awesome experience. Really, really enjoy it. Serving the state. But I've learned something this past year, and that is I really, really miss working with kids. That's what I learned. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to join Oriole Nation. You'll notice I'm wearing the district colors. And I want to get back in working with especially teenagers. Most of my experience was with 612. All my experience was 612. Mostly 8th, 9th grade, kind of that level. I've also have a lot of experience running summer school. Ran summer school for over 20 years in my previous district, so I'm very familiar with that. I've always gravitated towards, I don't want to use at risk, but those students that just need a little bit of extra support. So by doing that as a special ed teacher, really looking forward to the challenge. I'm looking forward to the opportunity, helping the graduation rate, helping our students be the best that they can be in our small district. I'm also looking for a little bit smaller district, which is very appealing to me. I know a lot of people that are employed in this district, did my homework, did my research, and this seems like it's going to be a really good fit for me. So I'd appreciate it if you would support me in getting this job. Otherwise, I look very foolish standing here. But I work hard, I do the job. I'm a strong supporter of public schools, especially local control. And I'm looking forward, hopefully, if this goes through, I'm working with you guys. It takes a village, and I completely am aware of that. So nice to meet you all. And hopefully I'll get my North Fond du Lac email later this week. You can always come out and reach me. So thanks for having me here tonight, and we'll see what happens.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you.
for that. Thanks for coming. You gotta go by Quadra though, and get the caw on the back of your shirt. That's the only way it works.
I'll learn that. I'll learn that.
Very good. Tony, thank you for being
Yes,
here.
thank you.
Appreciate you.
For
And
having me.
we're gonna keep it rolling here. We're actually gonna jump around a little bit, so we're in financial operations. Monica, if you wanna give us like a little budget update and where we're at and get us going in that area, that'd be fantastic.
I'm so excited that I get to go before the principals finally. Okay, so in your board packet, obviously I've changed the financial statement starting in January. I used a format that I'm comfortable with, that I think is a little bit more self-explanatory because most of us are business-related people and we understand that a little bit better. I do know that there's been a bit of discussion about the box that shows the surplus or the deficit at the end of the month. But please note that there's so much that happens in the month of June. And I could go into the extended version of governmental accounting and modified accrual that I don't think any of you want to hear. I love to talk about, but that's the reason a lot of these things can't be taken care of until June. So what happens is in that surplus and deficit, it's really just showing where we are to date with the stuff that we've booked. And again, there's so much that needs to be booked. If you look at the revenues themselves, there's almost $7 million that wasn't booked until the last week and a half. So it's gonna kind of skew that surplus or deficit. Mr. Matthew and I met today. I'm gonna try to come up with a different way to show it that might make a little bit more sense. I'm playing with some ideas. The example that I used is I've never watched soccer before, and of course, we've all been watching soccer. And I couldn't understand when I was watching it with my husband, and why is everybody getting upset? Because they're winning 2-1 and there's 75 minutes left. And he's like, no, that's 75 minutes have expired. So that's kind of what this is. It was a really good analogy. Like, this is showing the opposite of what we're used to. So I'm gonna try to come up with a different way to present it that might be from a snapshot easier to look at. The other thing too is I try to point out in the board notes key items that, like, okay, we're showing a deficit of 256,000, but I still haven't booked $7 million of revenue. I still haven't done this with expenditures. So the other key ingredient that I hope that you would look at would be the percentage to date. That's super helpful to see where we're at. And I also include where the benchmark is, where we should be at this point. And it's kind of a hybrid percentage because we have costs that run from July through June, but the majority of our costs run from, because their salaries and benefits run from September through June. So there's a lot of activity that takes place at the month of June. I will say, just because I ran Maze and I knew that at that point I had booked a lot of the revenues and expenditures, or I could project out what those were gonna be. I quickly ran June's because I wanted to see where we were gonna be. I think we're gonna be on target. So our budget target was a $457,000 surplus. I think we're gonna be close, if not over, but don't fire me if I'm wrong. And then the other thing, that doesn't include health insurance. So I include in your board notes or your board packet every month, health insurance. Health insurance is performing phenomenally again this year, which just so you know, even though we potentially will have a profit in that can only be spent on health insurance. So any profit that we have, we'll set aside for future use because we are not gonna have good years like this every year. There's gonna be a bad, statistically speaking, there will be a bad year and it'll be coming up shortly, I would presume, based just statistics alone. The interesting part is I met Maria, her and I did a kickboxing class last Monday, and I came in with my notes and my T accounts, and I was talking to her about something, and I was telling her about the health insurance, and she was super pleased. But the only thing she said to me, she goes, I don't know how in the heck you're gonna budget for 26, 27. And I said, yep, I don't either. So I'm trying to work on a plan Matt and I have talked about it, so we'll see if I can come up with something. But if you have any questions regarding the financial statements, please don't hesitate to email me or call me and I can walk you through it. It's not a world that most people live in, and it's the world that I live in all the time.
I think that's the insurance thing is a big deal because if you guys think from 2 years ago and the deficits that we were battling and the unfortunate move to have to raise, costs to people, to employees, right? So this is exciting to me that we're able to hopefully stabilize that and still provide great benefits to the group, so.
Yeah.
Good.
Any other questions for Monica at this point?
I just appreciate Monica's willingness to meet with us and adjust things. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. Knowledge is power, so.
And I would just say the very few months that we've had and been able to work together, it's been just amazing. And she's picking up right where Maria left off and getting right in there. And it's great to have new eyes on things as well as we approach these things. But, it's great to have individuals who are fiscally responsible and just all in. Her leadership's been really amazing in the short time that we've had so far. And I look forward to the future with her as well.
Thank you.
Look at that, you don't have to stay the whole meeting either, right?
I know, that's what I'm so excited about.
You're gonna go watch some soccer.
Yeah. Game starts at 8, right? Yeah, Todd.
All right.
Thank you.
First time I get to leave before the principal.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Drive safe. June board presentation from our leadership, and I'm going to turn it over to them, and we're going to get going right about now. Does anybody want control of the deck, or do you want me to just say?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm fine. I think they're rude, but I'm fine. We all know to start. Okay. I get to start, so.
Oops.
Oh, Sam's
Yeah.
does. Oh.
Look out. What is going on?
And you're done. Any questions?
Hold on. All right. There we go. I hit present. There we go.
All right, FLC. The picture, just as we were talking a little bit about summer school, was actually taken at summer school, and just like Katie had mentioned, Monica actually deserves probably kudos for the camp invention idea. She kind of pitched that to us, and then Willie did just an excellent job executing. When we got all the boxes and materials, we were a little taken back, like what did we get ourselves into? But it
25
was,
boxes of materials.
Yeah.
All now.
yeah.
So to see the kids come running out of school that last day, you were staying there, and they all like had their capybaras that they built, like they all were just like, oh, like they were so excited. So it was amazing. Yeah. It was great.
So definitely a celebration. I mean, this summer we get to offer the 2 weeks in June, and then we're looking forward to the August Jumpstart, which kind of ties into some of the academic pieces that we'll talk about today. You can see our building SLO up on the top, looking at K2, 60% of students proficient in the area of phonics, 55% of students in grades 3-5 with informational text. You can see the growth from fall to spring with all of the grade levels. I think the smallest pocket of growth was about 20%, and that was our 5th grade, and kindergarten had, I think, about 63% growth in those specific areas. So just want to make sure I'm really clear that that was specific to the area of phonics and informational text. The overall placement that you can kind of see that bar graph, that shows about 60% of our students are operating within that tier 1 instruction, meaning if they would just have that, typical day-to-day instruction within academics, they should continue to progress to be proficient on the forward exam, which is a number much higher than we've seen in the past. Just looking at some of our historical data, it's been hard to compare year to year because we've changed that assessment tool so often. So all the way back to STAR, Ames Web, and now iReady. So it'll be awesome to have that tool looking into next year so we can really start to kind of compare apples to apples. So K2, we hit our goal. We were just over 62% of our K2 students averaging that percentage. And then comprehension for 3-5, we were just a little short in that area. Go to the next slide. I think all of that kind of being factored into consideration when I think about like the rationale for why we, I think saw the growth that we did as a building. We've done a ton of work in the tier 1 instruction area. So that's that general classroom instruction that all of our students get. And through that, we had our continued professional development with CISA 6 in the area of literacy. We met bi-weekly with grade level team meetings to talk just about CKLA Amplify. That's our ELA curriculum tool that we've been using this year, and had a lot of really good conversations around what that tool was providing and how we can continue to build consistency among all of our grade levels. And then even our CT time, we got into a really good rhythm this year of really dedicating that time to looking at our lesson plans, looking at student data. So there were a lot of driving factors within, that space overall. This slide kind of speaks a little bit more to the tier 2 and tier 3 interventions that took place this year. So Act 20, we've been talking a lot about that over the course of the last 2 years. Those are students who qualify for personal reading plans, who fall underneath that 25th percentile and below. So we had a pretty good system in place when it came to tracking students within their intervention. I think we can also speak just even the students that didn't fall beneath that 25th percentile, but were maybe right on the bubble, we really were mindful of what we were providing them as well. So in terms of making sure that we didn't have kids kind of falling through the cracks, I think that's one thing that Act 20 has really actually, I think, done well for us and really highlighted, so that we're able to make sure that we're monitoring student progress at various points throughout the year. When I looked at our numbers for personal reading plans last year, so you can see some of those averages there, we dropped about 4% from students in the fall who needed a plan to students in the spring. That number last spring was at 48%. So even being able to see last year how much that number has dropped, yes, some of the cut scores are definitely factored into that, but I also think it just speaks to the work that we've done within our building, again, as we've kind of been on this Act 20 journey in general. Anything I'm missing?
Just that you'll see this same format for all buildings, because again, our SLOs are all around ELA. So you'll see what we did this year and how we're gonna leverage what we did and continue going forward for next year. And then MTSS is the new RTI. So if you remember here in response to intervention, RTI, the new updated acronym for that is MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of support. So it means the same thing. It just means what Laura was saying. We are honing in on that tier 1 support, and when that doesn't work, we have tier 2, and then we have tier 3 when that doesn't work. So you'll see MTSS on multiple slides. And then just that we are using all of the tools that are provided for us to help every decision we make. And Next Step tells us how effective our supports are. So that's all of our interventions. Who is it working for? Who is it not? Every 10 weeks, we're evaluating those students and making decisions on their interventions based on what we're seeing on their graphs and the anecdotal notes that we're taking on these kids. So we are very fortunate to have NextPath and iReady to guide us in the decisions that we make. Like Lauren said, we have a big jump from last year to this year. Yes, cut scores are a factor. iReady, NextPath, and our literacy department and our teachers' willingness for PD and taking that on is why we see this too. So
I think this last year too was so much focus on how to use these tools. So really getting comfortable with the systems and the process and the expectations that kind of fell within iReady and NextPath. And now next year we really get to look, I think, more closely at the data, and it'll feel a little less new in terms of just how do we execute the diagnostic, like what's best practice with all of that. So that's what I'm super excited looking ahead to next year. We're not really changing anything that we're doing. We're just continuing to fine tune and get stronger with like how we're using the information that those systems provide.
this is a great opportunity to mention too that myself, Tiffany, Lauren, and Matt applied for a grant with DPI for a literacy coach, and we were awarded it. So for 2 years, we will have a literacy coach joining us in that K3 area of FLC, and then K3 at Treffert too, to help with that coaching piece. As you guys know, as the literacy coordinator, I was switching my hats a lot, and I was doing coaching cycles and supporting teachers how I could, but to get that other person and to free up Jen and I to do more of that 412 work is just going to be huge for us. So we're really, really excited to fill that position and get started, hit the ball running at the start of the year.
So I should know this, but how do I read this chart on the right? Does that say for kindergarten, 7 kids out of 22 no longer need?
So
It's a
this-
good question, yeah.
Yep, so this effective supports just means that the intervention that was in place supported the graph that NextPath says that they were on track to be at end of year, to reach end of year. So those are, I don't know if those same 7 kids that it says we're on track to are the 7 kids that don't need a PRP anymore, but it'll tell us like who's on track to reach end of year based on their intervention for that.
So like the 7 of 22 kids for that specific intervention, like with that support, what NextPath will do, let's say we have 22 kindergarten students and a group of them are receiving an intervention called UFly and another group of students are receiving a different intervention. It will also kind of differentiate between which specific supports are supporting kids and are being effective. So I think that
Those are
one,
2 at grade level too. So we are in that tier 2 and tier 3, supporting them to not need any intervention. And those are the students that are receiving that. So like Jane just said, those are going to be lower because the gap is so large that we're trying to close. But I mean, really any student that we are closing the gap for is a success. So NextPath has multiple things that they use to show data. This is just one that I think is a effective way of showing us that the interventions that are in place are closing our gaps to proficiency of grade level.
Any more on the learning before we shift in?
All right, FLC behavior this year, there was, I think, a ton to celebrate here. I know that we always talk about at North Fond du Lac, you know, we want this to be a place where people want to be. And I think our data supports that our students really want to be at FLC. We had 94.9, I'll call it 95% average daily attendance this year. FLC saw a reduction by 39% in our SEL calls, meaning a student who is dysregulated in their classroom, out at recess or at lunch or at their encore. We have an adult that's responding to them and providing intervention support for them. At that time, that's a massive reduction, I think, in those calls, which speaks to really our tier 1 teaching by our teachers in the classrooms. They're really building strong relationships with our students, problem solving with them, and working through some of those difficult times with those students and keeping them in the classroom as much as possible. So huge shout out to our staff, our teaching staff in that realm. Some other huge shout outs here, 94% of our students feel they have a teacher or adult they can trust at school, which again, just kind of aligns with that 39% reduction in SEL calls. Our students feel like they can go to their teachers when they're upset, when they have a problem with another student, if they're having issues at home, they're coming here and they're getting that support that they need. 92% of our students have something that excites them about coming to school, whether that's art, gym, recess, lunch, whatever it is, but students are happy to come to school and they show up and they're ready to learn. They feel really connected at school and that they belong here. 91% of our students feel that they have a friend at school. I think that it's again shows that our staff really builds that school community when we talk about Circle Up in the morning, when we talk about all those things that they do in the classroom to really build the school community very strong. Even having breakfast, that soft start in the morning, getting to know their kids in really unstructured environments or where there's non-academic things taking place, just building that school community. And then 87% of our students they feel safe at school. Where we're going next is, I really think that the biggest strength that we had this year was that reduction in the SEL calls, and I kind of want to double down on that next year. We're going to bring in our GRIT curriculum, which I know the high school and middle school have already used, and we're going to start aligning some of those things in that language with our elementary school students, and really just building the foundation of how the brain works, how their emotions work, and how they respond to situations at school. I'm really excited to get that into our Circle Up time in the morning. I know that Lauren and Kara talked about NextPath, we're also going to start housing all of our behavior data in NextPath as well. The SEL calls, we are finding a new way to track those using NextPath, and that will help our teachers prepare for students in upcoming years, like how were they best supported in the past, who works well with them, what is some other information that we can use to really leverage building those relationships with our students. And then just continuing to build in more staff and student activities. We had our basketball game at the end of the year that had a really good turnout. We want to do some more things like that, maybe throughout the year, incorporating some more sports or some other activities that can get students involved in things other than just academics at school. Another real strength of ours this year was our SEL meetings. We met bi-weekly or every 2 weeks with those, kind of like the academic team. We were opposite every other week. We really built some strong connections with our teachers there. And I'm kind of shifting my focus next year in those to make them almost like mini PD sessions so that we can have our teachers really handle situations or be more prepared for situations in the classroom or communicating with parents or communicating with other adults in the building. So we're really looking forward to how those SEL meetings are going to be run next year. Yeah, that's what I got.
Any questions for FLC staff? This time. All right, moving on. Trevor.
All right, so starting with our academics, so our SLO at the start of the year was at the end of the year, 55% of our K-8 students would be proficient in literacy. Using that iReady tool, our baseline was 36%, and we were focused on phonics in K-3 and then informational text in 4-8. So our phonics goal was getting our students up to 80% proficiency, and we ended the year at 78.25%. So they really crushed it in K-3 this year. I know Jill was a little disappointed with her second and third grade results, but she had several students who were 2 or more grade levels behind that are now so close to being at grade level. So although they're not in that green range, they made a lot of growth from where they started the year. So it was really exciting. Informational text, our goal is 45, and we increased from 23 to 30%. So definitely still an area that we can grow. So if you are looking like at that graph at the top there, we ended the year with 37% of our students proficient if you're looking at like that dark slash green, but if you look at overall tier 1 instruction, 60% of our students are there. So they worked really hard this year, and we're excited to see that keep going next year. You can go to the next slide if you'd like. So similar in the setup of this slide, so like where are we and where are we going next year? So again, this year we had a lot of literacy coaching cycles. Jen was over, Kara was over, meeting with our teachers, helping them, whether it was with questions, whether it was modeling, supporting them with ideas in the classroom. So again, we're really excited to add that 0.5 literacy coach at Treffert next year as well, which ties into that bottom box too. We're gonna be working with the Jennifer Sarabello Literacy Project. One of her books or key concepts that she has is teaching reading throughout the day, which really ties into our project-based approach that we do, and just focusing on how literacy and the standards can be incorporated through everything that we're doing throughout the day. So we're really excited to dig into that work along with our coach to continue to focus on that literacy. This was one of the first years we really tracked tier 2. So we had weekly progress monitoring. Beth Artis, who used to work at Treffert Way, came back and volunteered every Monday and came in, and she progress monitored all of our kids who were in a tier 2 intervention. So it was a good connection for them, but also just to help us keep track of that data and see where our kids were working and continuing to use that data to drive our decisions next year as well. And then interventions for tier 2 and tier 3 students were starting to be implemented and in place. And again, we're just excited to see that and hopefully then see the decrease in the need of personal reading plans for our students. And then similar, that graph on the right kind of shows you how effective are those supports that we had in place. So again, just another tool to help us see, is what we're doing working? Do we need to change? Do we need to try something different for our students? It's a quick kind of at a glance, so. And then our third slide, focused on behavior. So our attendance average this year, we had 97.2% average daily attendance, and none of our students were at risk for chronic absenteeism. So again, just a place where kids want to be, is exciting to have them there. And then when we surveyed our students, 94.4% of students feel that teachers know about their strengths and interests, up from 91% in the fall. Again, that's a big part of who we are. It's part of the Trevor approach, is that we are strength-based and interest-based, incorporating strengths into what we do. So obviously, we're hoping that our kids feel that the teachers know about their strengths or what they like to do. 92.7% of our students know strategies available to them at school if they're feeling upset, frustrated, or overwhelmed, up from 87.3% in the fall. Again, a great thing. We focused a lot this year, especially our 4th through 6th grade classroom. They had daily SEL lessons by either the teacher or Sarah Bednarik helped to lead those. Karen Bartelt pushed in to help lead those lessons. Just that regular, consistent instruction and working through problems. And then in the fall, only 74.5% of students reported using those strategies. So that increased to 81.1% that they're sharing that they are able to use those strategies. They know what breaks work for them. They're accessing the breaks. And some of our teachers set up too that they were kind of tracking, like they'd come back from a break. How long are you feeling regulated? Do you feel like you're ready to learn now? So just continuing to build on that for next year as well. And then 94.5% of our students have something that excites them about coming to school each day, whether it's activities, their peers, classes, teachers, again, up from 89.3%. So great things happening, and yeah, we're excited. Another, I'll share this, I shared this with my board last month. Something that we're doing this summer is we're sending our staff out east, and they are gonna be Timber Nook trained. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Timber Nook. It's out in Keycaver Park in Fond du Lac. But it's just about being outside, regulation, teaching kids what their bodies need, playing, problem solving on their own. Like when adults go to Timber Nook, like if you get too close, like the leaders are like, get away, like this is a kid zone. So Karen Bartelt has been really digging into it. It's out where she lives. You can become a Timber Nook certified school, and our governance board supported that we could pay for our staff to become a Timber Nook certified school. So the wooded area out back there by FLC, the village has agreed to let us use that for Timber Nook next year. So all of our classes, at least once a week for 2 to 3 hours, will be heading out there into the woods and playing and learning more about themselves. So we're super excited. I'll give updates next year as we learn more. Any questions about anything happening at Trevor?
Nice numbers.
All right, thanks, Steph. Moving on to bands. Jillian.
So at the beginning of the year for our SLO, we were striving to have 45% of our students be proficient on the iReady diagnostic, specifically in the area of informational text. Just to kind of remember, our baseline was at 21%. So at the end of the year, we ended at 35. So short of our goal, but still a significant gain, a lot of opportunity to grow. When I think about our action steps for next year, we have a lot of things in motion. Some are going to be just building upon what we were already doing this year. So one of the things, as we look at that common planning time that each grade level has, that team time, we really want to put a structure in place there to be efficient with the resources that we have. So when we have our reading experts, Jen and Kara, we have ML teachers, we have our SPED teachers. We really need to be proactive in our planning of our lessons to ensure that all students can access those activities in class, and not trying to be the reactive, oh, we're here, they can't do it now. What? We want to be thinking, what are we doing and how do we remove those barriers before we even get there so that all students are engaging in the work and growing. So we're going to be working on providing a very specific structure to each day of the week. So Monday would be like the team time where they would handle their team business, but then on Tuesday, that could be ELA's day where they're gonna get their ML specialist, their SPED case manager, and their ML teacher all together planning their lessons for the coming week. And then they'll come back, they'll review, what did we learn, what are we planning for the next week, so we get that cadence of proactive planning in place. The other thing that we want to do is really fine tune that CT time on Wednesday morning. So we implemented a protocol this year where we are really digging into the data, and we were having some really rich discussions on where our kids are at And we want to build off of that to really get into the action plans that are coming out of that. Yes, we see where they're at, but what are we doing as a result of the data that's in front of us? And so every week we were looking at the data from the last week, and we want to continue that, but really hone in on what are the action steps, and then how do we go back and assess our action steps? Were we successful that last week? And so I have been reaching out to John Graff through CSET. He has been my partner in this work. I'm hopeful that he can come in and go with me and coach the team specifically and provide feedback, because the toughest part about the protocol is the timing, because we have a lot of data to cover in that 45-minute block on Wednesday morning. So we really, and I know FLC kind of went through the same thing, like getting the timing of each of the steps of the protocol done so that you finish the whole thing by the end of the morning is really key. So I'm hopeful either John or someone else from CSIC can come and help us recalibrate in the fall, but I'm really excited because we're having really rich conversations around data, I think, for the very first time. The other part that we want to continue to grow and build upon is our coaching cycles. Jen and Kara did a phenomenal job of going in and doing coaching cycles with our ELA teachers as we were piloting Amplify. We need to double down on that as we fully implement this year. And then we're also bringing in illustrative math. And so that too is going to need some intense coaching from myself and our CISA coach that's coming in. And then I don't want to forget science and social studies, because we talked a lot about ELA and math. And so my promise to those core teachers as well is we need to provide coaching cycles for them. And the area that I really want to hone in on with them is how are they supporting literacy in their content areas, because so much of what they do is around text in social studies and science. So it's a natural way for Jen and Kara and myself to go in there and provide instructional support on that area. I was watching some students do the forward test for science and social studies, and the passages they had to read was unbelievable. So they need to be strong readers in those areas as well. So I would like to start doing some coaching cycles in those content areas as well. And then obviously, I know you've heard a lot about our PDs for Fridays. Next year, we're going to have a unified approach with that. And I think that is key, where we're going to be able to really start setting the stage for what universal instructional strategies we want to see in place K-12. All right. So one of the big things that we did after first quarter last year is we started Power Hour. And during Power Hour, every student would have this 1 hour a day. Each grade level had their chunk of time, and we focused on using the iReady tool. And students had to do a minimum of 40 minutes for math and a minimum of 40 minutes for reading every week. And opposite of that time, there would be some other small group support happening for teachers that were identifying those students who are working on homework. And what we really want to do next year is define that second half of Power Hour, because usually Power Hour, the first 25 minutes, we're going to get our minutes done. And then we're going to look at what do we have going on in our classes, what do we need to stay caught up on. But I want to really maximize that time to really hone in on the gaps that we have, so that we can get our achievement to where we want it to be. So we've been working with the grade level teams to kind of talk about, could we be doing stuff around a book study? Grammar is the big thing too, spelling. And then what about math? We really need to start building math interventions as well. So those are all things that we want to look to really define that second half of Power Hour. You know, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Jen and Kara, because the work that we did with our interventions and reading this past year would not have happened without their work. They are cheerleaders, they are supporters of our teachers, they are in there helping support, even though sometimes there's literal tears over the work we're doing because it's so hard, and you know, we're asking a lot of teachers to look at things in a different way, and they're in their corner supporting, guiding, and making sure no one stays on the ground too long, that we pick them up and we keep moving forward. And so we just want to continue to fine tune that process. I think we got really good at identifying kids. of who needs an intervention and constantly progress monitoring those, and those kids were moving. We had kids that were doing really well, they no longer needed it, okay, but now we have other kids that need to move in because we've seen that in the data. And I think that is really critical, is that constant monitoring that we're doing of students. And then when we look at behavior, attendance, and SEL, I'll be very transparent out of the gate. We really struggled with behaviors at Bessie this year. We saw a pretty dramatic increase in two particular areas, physical aggression and abusive language. And so as we think about next year, with the addition of the dean at the middle school, that's a game changer, I think, for both high school and middle school. Because Carrie is by far the best dean I've ever worked with, but she was asking to do work in both buildings, and you get to the point where you're just kind of putting out fires rather than able to be proactive and like figure out, okay, if this is what our data is showing, do we need to create an SEL lesson? Do I need to do some small group with students? Do I need to push into a particular grade level and have some conversations? We just didn't have the capacity to do those things, and we will now. So that's super exciting because we really need to figure out, number one, how do we teach kids about the certain areas of behavior that we're seeing an uptick in, the physical aggression and the abusive language. But we also need to continue to drive home the importance of all of our expectations at school. The one, I think, really, I'm still kind of shocked about it when we talked about behavior. We didn't have any alcohol, any drugs this year at BAMS at all. We had one vape, and it happened in the last couple weeks of school, which to me is mind-blowing. Because in my past experience and being at the middle school for 20 years, vapes have been very prevalent. And so that just was not an issue that we had to deal with this year. And so I'm hopeful that means that less kids are having access to it. So that to me is something that we should celebrate. And I think with the addition of that dean, just having that additional presence, and then working really with our teachers to help improve classroom management, because a lot of our issues, if we can figure out how we can set up our classrooms in a way that can be proactive so that we get kids engaged in the learning and not in some of these off-task behaviors, will help us. If we can get the behaviors in line, our achievement is gonna soar through the roof. Attendance-wise, Carrie did an awesome job. She's always on top of attendance and having phone conversations, in-person meetings. 95.1% of our students, on average, were present at school, which is a very high percentage. That's not something that I've ever been familiar with that until I came to North Fond du Lac. So their education is important to our families because they get our kids here to school. We saw a little bit of a reduction in chronic absenteeism. And again, I think those are just things that the new dean is going to really be able to dive more into and build those partnerships with families. SEL, we implemented second semester, the GRIT SEL program that Kurt Wismer created. We dabbled in it. We didn't complete a full semester's work of things just because we had other school business too, but we will be hitting the ground running with that in the fall. And I'm super excited because I think a lot of those lessons that are built in will help tackle some of the issues that we saw with behavior too. So you put that with the new dean and all those other supports that will provide, I think we can start to make a dent in some of the challenges that we have. When I took a look at our end of the year survey, 80.6% of our students feel safe at school. That was an increase. 92.5% of our students feel they can manage their emotions. That was up. That's huge because we did start seeing that more students were recognizing, I'm upset, and if I don't walk away and go find an adult. I had a couple students at the end of the year that just said, I just walked out of class because if I stayed, I was going to do something that was going to get me suspended. I'd rather have them recognize that in themselves and walk away and find that support. And so that's huge. We want to continue to grow on that. I think the one area that we learned in that survey, and this is something I'll bring back to the BAM staff in the fall, is our level of students feeling that they're engaged in school. was 48.6%. That was down 5%. So we gotta figure out what that is. And I think I have more questions for students, like what does engagement mean to them? Because I think as adults, sometimes we think engagement means something different. So I would like to do more work with like a student council next year to dig in and understand a little bit more why they might be answering a certain way, because it's hard to figure out how to like solve that or make that better if you don't know that you're thinking about the same things. And I already talked a lot about the addition of the new dean, but I think that is a game changer for the secondary level. Questions for me about BAMS?
I guess, how do you think the staff is accepting the new models and coaching?
Yeah, I think, I was in classrooms a lot this year doing mini observations, rapid cycles. And I had several staff come up to me and like, is there a problem? Am I going on a plan of improvement? You're in here a lot. I feel like there's an issue. And I'm like, no. I said, tell me more about why you feel that way. They've never had anybody as a principal or authority in their classrooms watching what they're doing and giving them feedback. And so this is a new thing. And I think they're warming up to it. I think they, when I said I was gonna be in your classroom a lot, I meant it. I was in your classroom at least once a month, and I gave you feedback on it in the form of a question, and then we had a dialogue about it. So I think it's, when I look at the whole spectrum of the staff, like 50% are probably like, yeah, this is awesome. Others are still kind of like, whew, I'm not used to be given all this feedback, and I don't know what this means. And I always tell them, like, I am there to be a supporter of them. We're all humans and we just need to learn and grow. This isn't I gotcha unless you're not doing what I'm asking you to do. And so I do think they want to do well. No one's happy when we look at our past data, right? Like, they know that that's on all of us. And so they don't know what they don't know. And so I think having people like Jen and Kara, we have a new ML staff member coming in that will be coaches as well. Tom Mothy is going to be coming down and doing interventions. I think the more that we show them that there's people in leadership positions that are wrapping their arms around them to give them the tools so that they feel more equipped, they're excited about the resources. And I think every time when I talk about different resources or different tools that we're doing, I think there's always a certain level of cautiousness with it because they don't know, like, what is this going to mean for me? Like, how much more work it's going to be? But they learned through Power Hour is the work paid off. We saw significant gains. And I know we can't talk about it now, but I've been looking at the forward results. They're embargoed right now, but we did see a jump in our iReady reading for forward. You'll find that out in the fall. And so I'm really excited to put that data in front of them so that they understand this is why we're doing the work and we're making changes, because we're seeing gains. And every year, if we can make the same jump, we're going to be in a really good position in another 3 or 4 years.
Some of these things just, they stand out, the 45% increase in behavior, and then saying we need improved staff presence. I mean, it would seem to me that you'd have staff presence. I mean, that seems like basic blocking and tackling, and just like in attendance where it says we focused on accurate daily attendance data. I mean, taking daily attendance seems like it. Was that an issue or?
Yes.
And see, that seems, and then the 48% of students feeling they're engaged, it all seems to point to, if I'm going to be blunt, an unengaged staff is what it seems like looking at from the outside.
I wouldn't say they're unengaged. I think they are, I threw a lot of curveballs at them this year. And so there was a lot of rapid learning and rethinking how they're doing things. And we have a lot of veterans on our staff, and you're asking veteran teachers to really think drastically different about how they've ever approached education. We're much different now than 15 years ago or 20 years ago when you came out of college, and we have to take a different approach. I think when we talk about, staff presence, I think we need more staff presence in the hallway. I think that's where we're seeing some of the aggressive behavior. But another thing, I wish Carrie was here too to help me speak to this, but with our behaviors, I think prior to me, behaviors went unchecked at BAMS. And I think for the first time, students are really understanding that you will be held accountable if you don't follow the expectation. And so I think that is probably why you see such a dramatic increase, because there are just certain things like you can't be beating each other up in school. That's unsafe. It makes people not want to come to school. That's building a reputation for yourself. That's not going to be acceptable. And we got to figure out a better way. Now, I will own that we have to figure out something other than suspensions, because that obviously didn't work for us this year in a lot of our cases. So we got to figure out more of a restorative approach. But I also think we were always reacting to things and never getting in front of it and teaching behaviors like I've seen done in other schools, just because we didn't have the capacity to really figure out what the plan needs to be. So I know with whoever this new dean is, we're gonna be able to sit down and look at data from last year and figure out how's August, those first couple of days gonna look like? How are we gonna set the stage with students and show them like, this is what it looks like to be a middle school student. This is how I walk down the hallway and how I interact with students in the lunchroom or when I'm outside by the bathroom. Like, I know it kind of sounds maybe ridiculous, but middle school students still need to be taught these things, and they need to be taught every year. And we just weren't doing a good job of really teaching those expectations. It was more of after the fact, well, you didn't do it, now let me teach you how to do it.
To add to, just like with some of those percentage points, I know FLC in terms of like the percent of students engaged, that was definitely our lowest area too when we did that survey. So I think that's something that we all continue to, reflect on in terms of like, how do we get kids more engaged with the learning? I know you've got the new ELA tool as well, and we've gotten some feedback from some of our kids like, seek out again, no. So just making sure that, I think that's something even K-8 we want to look at, because I know like BAMS wasn't the only school that was lower in that percentage point. SEL, that was, or FLC, that was our lowest too.
All right, thank you. And moving on to Horace Mann.
All right, well, I will start mine with just our intervention approach this year. So that left column is our 25-26. So one huge celebration this year was the actual launching of interventions in a literacy framework at the high school. Not that there weren't pockets of it historically, but this time we had a clear pathway to monitoring it. Is effective, is it not? And then more importantly, using the data to inform us what students needed these interventions. High school, we're kind of at the weird tipping point of the mountain where by the time they get to us, interventions not, as we saw that table on the right there, like that's to get to grade level. Sometimes by the time they get to high school, that gap's pretty wide. So for us, it's really trying to make a 1.5 year growth as best we can. In those moments to try to close that gap as much as we can to prepare that. So this year was just refreshing to have that. I mean, big shout out to Jen and Kara helping create the framework for it, but then Cassie Schmidt, Tom Mothy, Brian Jagodinsky, Krista Klonderman. That was the supervision each ELA teacher had at the high school this year, was to lead an intervention with students. And for us, 59 students, or roughly 14%, participate in some sort of literacy intervention this year, whether it's tier 2, 3. And then the other fun part, like high school too, like I don't need intervention. Well, your data shows that you might need intervention. And then we had a couple individuals who, swore that they didn't need one, and then like, all right, well then redo it. So Jen and Kara would help them and they would redo it, and sure enough, they didn't need an intervention. It's just, we talk about the engagement, I'll talk about that in my SEL too, but like making them aware that the data that they provide us with, like, we actually look at it, and it does help set them up. So that was kind of a fun piece. As far as moving forward, obviously a continuation of our interventions this year, as Jillian noted before, Tom Mothy sliding into a literacy intervention role. So that'll provide us a couple more hours as well at the high school, in addition to continuing with our ELA staff, A, onboarding a new curriculum, but then B, also for their supervisions will
continue with their interventions, but now also getting special ed and ML in the game as well. And we feel a lot better this year. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jill and Jenny, my counselors, because I would say back in late September last year, they probably wanted to throw something at all of us because we're like, well, we had to change Jacob's schedule, Lauren's schedule, Jillian's schedule, Tiffany's schedule, Brad's schedule, and just hope it all works out. And so they had a lot of those in the trenches conversations, but now they've seen the data as well, and it's worth it. So big kudos to them. But now we're able to proactively put this in place for next year, and that's where we're just most excited right now. Is not only do we know the students are identified, but we can confidently say we're doing something with them now. So just huge shout out on that. But then for me, we're never satisfied. So how do we get math going on this now too? That's going to be kind of the clunky rollout next year, I would say, is how we launched ELA this year is really how do we get math going in that way too, as we also adopted math to the high school as well. So I'm hoping next year at this time we can celebrate how we launched and pushed into motion some math interventions as well. Any questions on this slide? All right, next one jumps into our SLO. As you have all known for the past few years, we do a building-wide SLO at the high school. For me, the biggest reason is that I have so many different pockets of teachers, whether it's ELA, math, science, but then let's factor in music, physical education, tech ed, family consumer science. So how do we get that ownership? Because, you know, ACT, pre-ACT, those other assessments we give students to, it's really hard to rally some of those other departments to feel that there's a purpose towards that score. So for us, it was really first couple of years, Jen and I tag teamed on building that vocabulary awareness with our students. And for us, if you come up to an unfamiliar word, like being able to break that down and understand it, whereas this year we focus more on fluency and just getting students to be able to access that text. Next year, we will dive in deeper into comprehension, and I'll talk to that in a second here, but our SLO goal for the year, we tried to put about a 12% growth for each from the baseline data. That represents, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, roughly a year and a half growth.
Year and a half, yeah.
Year and a half's growth. So freshmen start at 30, goal is 42, end of the year at 64, so we saw a 34% jump. And then I won't read each one, but we met our goal and exceeded it in each grade level, which is a huge celebration. And for staff too, is really putting in front of them on our PD days and our CT time, what does fluency mean in the classroom? How do we make sure we're being proactive in that? And some fun celebrations such as music, like what does that song mean? Like what's the meaning to that song? As we all, I'm not musical, I'll never claim to be. I have very little skill, but there's a lot of nuances to that where you can understand and read it. Even with tech ed, they're realizing a little bit too, like when a blueprint is put in front of a student, like, yeah, like sure, it's not reading a textbook, but you need to be able to delineate what that is saying to understand it and fulfill that work. So for us, that was a success for our SLO. Next year, again, we'll dive into comprehension, and that'll be our continuation of our depth of knowledge or DOK work. You'll hear us talking about that next year, and that's been in alignment with John Graff from CISA 6, is really trying to mirror what sorts of questions they're accessing on pre-ACT, ACT forward. And nice thing is with like My Perspectives ELA tool, that's all written right into that tool. Is this is a DOK level 2 question. And for us, it's really honing in on the data as, you know, when we get our ACT and pre-ACT results, it's easy to look at the numbers, but what are those subcomponents that are really showing the gaps and deficits students have? And then it's been nice working with Lauren and Jillian as well. What is that parallel, even Tiffany? Because when they jump from Treffer to the high school too, like what are those parallels we're seeing K-12 and how are we, with our coaching, that being proactive in our approach to try to limit those gaps and deficit areas. So pretty excited on that. And like I said, adopting a few curriculum pieces. We'll also have coaching cycles going on at the high school as well around ELA and math as we continue to move that forward. Questions on academics at the high school?
Question for you, Dwayne.
Yep.
Is it relatively similar grade to grade, meaning like would a 64% with that group as they move into grade 10, would we expect it to be around 64% next year? So like, meaning the differences are really grade composition specific, or?
I should highlight grade 10 is kind of an anomaly.
Okay.
Last year, if you rewind back a year, Tom Moffey was in here with us too. he took all freshmen into this fluency activity with that. So that grade 10 was kind of our dipstick and litmus test of really what sort of fluency activities, and that's where we noticed for this year where our deficit was and we want to attack fluency. So grade 10, kind of a weird anomaly. They had a year of that taste with Tom to see that, but typically we're going to see, I mean, grade 11 and 12 is always that shift in how much, and we mentioned before, like how much effort are you putting into this baseline data for us? I mean, the same question can be asked for ECT and that too, like if you're not planning that. So I mean, in my experience, typically you see the trickle down as they get to grades 11 and 12, just because you're usually not getting that full effort from them. But usually I'd love to see where it's starting at like 60% for each grade level and moving up. And we're not there right now, but I won't necessarily, I guess, speak to the history of maybe 11th and 12th grade, but that's been maybe a couple of grades that historically here weren't always doing great. So yeah, can trickle there, but yeah. I don't know if that answers your question or not, or Jen, do you have anything to add?
Well, those grade 10 was every student, right?
Yep, so grade 10 was, I read with every single 9th grader and every single 10th grader one-on-one.
Okay.
And I did it 3 times a year. So those 9th graders got it 3 times a year. The 10th graders got it last year 3 times a year, and that percentage did stay that high. And I really believe, like I want to believe, that anomaly is due to all the interventions we had on those 10th graders who were 9th graders. So I'm hoping that yes, when we now go next year, we have planned on not testing them at the beginning of the year because we're aware of all the testing that we do. And we've already tested them at the end. So we're going to go with these percentages now to then now bring it up. The 11th and 12th, yeah, they just got older. It was like, where do we start and how do we do this? Let's start with 9th. So now we have these 2 years. So next year we're going to have 3.
Sure.
Because we have some really solid data on those 8th graders. But yes, those percentages should stay. That 10th grade anomaly should now move to 11.
Okay.
And not crash unless
So,
we have
yeah,
a bunch of kids moving.
What I was trying to decide is there a difference in the standard that led to a lower score, but it sounds like not,
It is
right?
grade level text.
Okay.
So, now that's a good question. So the 9th grade, that percentage, even though 9th grade percentage goes up,
Yeah.
it not only went up a year because it's grade level text, they went up a whole year and then some.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
the percentage staying the same in 9th grade, they read 9th grade text, 10th grade read with me 10th grade text, 11 read 11th grade text. So they was grade level text.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not like a blanket passage that they're reading, it's all
Correct.
paired to their grade level, yeah.
And this is fluency focused, whereas next year, as Jen and I have noticed, now that our kids are fluent, now we need to make sure that they know what they're reading. Now that they can read, now how do we, like doing the same with the depth of knowledge, how do we know that they are interpreting what they're reading? And that's kind of our focus, it's the next step, so.
Sure.
So we'll have more data on other things.
All right, and then last one, I know there's a lot of letters up there in small font. Anyone in here knows my formatting quirks maybe, so it bothers me if it doesn't look perfect. So anyways, we'll start with the left column of behavior there. So just a continuation of our universal expectations and student behavior matrix that we put into place about 3 years ago now when we had started here. This year we saw a 32% reduction in major behaviors at the high school in comparison to last year, and then also 53% decrease from 2 years ago. So again, really putting those expectations in front of the students. You know what's expected of you. The accountability metric is in place for that. And for summer, our big focus is really on continuing to, and this kind of piggybacks into attendance as well, although not glaring, but for us really getting universal late policies on, whether those are assessments, makeup work, things like that in the classroom, so that students aren't going through their day with 9 different expectations placed on them from teachers. So I met with departments a couple weeks ago here and just trying to align to it's a common expectation. Same with academic dishonesty. I know we all know what artificial intelligence is and AI right now. So the students, especially as they get older, and really trying to be proactive in teaching them how to use it, how it is a tool, and that can be an asset, but also at the end of the day, really reiterating to them, we want to assess you on what you know, not what you type into, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini. And then the other thing that we're all kind of bracing for is the state going to do anything with a school day ban on cell phones and things like that. There was a lot of talk a couple months ago that was coming, maybe not, but we'll continue our cell phone policy right now on that. So big celebration on our behaviors this year, and a big piece of that is, our staff are bought into that. And one thing to note, like, it's not that we had a reduction of staff write-ups or things like that. Like, they're still holding students accountable, keeping that level and that rigor high. We talked a lot this year about being above average, and part of that's just being students that are in school willing to learn and prepared and making better decisions. And at the end of the day, they're young adults too, so making sure they're ready. Attendance-wise, for that too, continuing with Carrie Nitz, Officer Yeager, and the rest of our crew, our secretaries, now really working with monitoring and identifying those students early. High school can always become a tricky time as well, as they get more freedoms and luxuries maybe at home, and access to cars and things like all that fun stuff. Is really just trying to catch that before it is a glaring issue or impacting the student. So continuing to make sure we are consistent on that application. That's one thing we hold true on, that is each student, no matter what, we run their data reports on attendance, is we're all held to that same level. This year, 95% of students were present, which is a 1% improvement from last year, and then 92% of students were not at risk of chronic absenteeism, which was just over a 2% increase from last year for us there. 26, 27, it's just kind of that focus on the students who are at risk. So, and even talking with Carrie the other day too, like, rather than, because sometimes families are reluctant to maybe come in and have that conversation because unfortunately, sometimes there's students who are, chronically absent. They might be struggling academically, behaviorally, things like that as well. So it's really trying to nurture into that conversation on that we are wraparound support with them. What are we maybe missing as well? Or is there something going on at home that we can support you with? And that's a celebration with their SEL work, is a lot of students are now able to identify they need a mental health support. That's one thing I'll celebrate about this age of students right now, in this generation right now. They are hyper aware of what they're struggling with and what they need and what may or may not help them. So that's one cool thing to see with, post-COVID and things like that ripple that's still coming. If COVID benefited our kids in a way, like, sure, it brought up the gap of mental health issues, but I think our students are actually aware now of, like, what a mental health issue is and some of those supports they need. So like Cartwheel this year was someone we partnered with, so getting students access to those sessions as well. But for us, the same with attendance, and on that front is really getting with that student more. Even if we have to go do some home visits and roll up, and you don't want to come at 8 a.m., we'll bring you a cup of coffee at 8 a.m. and talk about Timmy. So just trying to be proactive with that. And then we'll continue tardy sweeps and incentives. I think it was back in February, we did an incentive with our students. Any student that doesn't have a tardy this month, you get put into a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card. We got 4 of them, and kids, oddly enough, we didn't have many tardies that month. So continuing to do that, not that it needs to be an Amazon gift card every time, but they're kids at the end of the day, and how can we motivate them to keep them going? SEL wise, so again, using our data on that, but our biggest focus this year, on the past, my first year was, making sure they feel safe at school, do they have an adult they can go to. This year was really making sure they do have that trusted adult, but then also, what are those ways you can advocate for yourself? So they kind of coupled together this year, like, hey, last year we worked really hard on you getting an adult that you trust and can be empowered by, but now how do you advocate for yourself, either to them or someone else, what you're struggling with or what you need help with? So that was our focus this year, and we saw a good increase on that because 90% of students feel they're able to manage or access resources for mental health, which was a 6% growth from the fall. So kudos to our cultural playbook team. That was Wismer, Jill and Jenny, our counselors, Taylor Nibara, Nitz, and myself, and just really what are the needs of our students and making sure we are wrapping those up. 95% of students feel they can remain calm when things go wrong. That's a celebration behavior-wise. We haven't had a fight in a year and a half, so but hey, our kids know better now, right? And then 94% are able to self-manage as well. So those are just a couple nuggets. We were also lowest on hours for that engagement in their learning. And I know we had talked, Jillian, Lauren, Willie, Dr. Mino, and ourselves, like, as admin, like, really, do they understand what that question's asking and making that tangible? So we always wonder, not that we're afraid of the data, but what is that data telling us? Is it a misunderstanding of the question? Is it not knowing what engagement is? And then even using that to teach our staff too, like this is what students maybe define engagement as. How do we, and then how do we meet in the middle? So really just taking that framework and making sure we all have a common understanding of that, because not that the data is not accurate, it's data, it's a number, we have to act on it, but is that authentic and good data for us to use, or do we need to do a little more digging to get a better understanding of that? Because we're right around that 52% range as well. Ours is low as well, but there's a multitude of that too. Like, do I expect seniors in May to say they are engaged in school? No, but what is that? So again, that's just one. And then next year we'll continue to focus on the engagement piece to make sure we understand what that is. But then our goal is always going to be 100% of students feel safe in school. We were at about 87% this year, which is up pretty dramatically from 2 years ago. But what is that 13% gap now? Is some of that out of our control given the current political landscape and things like that? And if some of those are, how do we make sure they still feel safe in our buildings? So those are just a couple of the nuances we need to wrap in there. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do. We're excited to do it, but kudos to the kids because they provide us the data and keep us moving forward. So any questions on this one?
So on that engagement piece, and you guys are talking about it, are you considering just asking different questions?
Yeah, and we've done that on the survey in the past, like
Okay.
somewhere like, when we're asking, kindergartner, do you feel safe at school? I forget the original question a few years ago on Panorama. It was pretty wordy and like, well, will they understand what that is?
Sure.
So making sure A, they're accessible to the right grade levels to give us that data, but then B, is that the organic question asked? Like, are you engaged in school? Well,
Yeah, what are you trying to get at by asking the question? Like the answer to what the question should be, right?
correct. Like, do we add 2 sub-questions on it? Or that's a building block to it?
Do you complete your homework on time? Is that important to you? Or, are you, do you like the activities that you're a part of or,
So we added a sub-question this year, like, how do you participate in class? And it was like,
oh, sure.
I do often, I don't feel like I know the answer, I prefer not to, I'm aware and I don't, like, I'm ready to start my work. So there were those sub-questions to it, but even those, again, because then you run into little glitches, like you can only click 2 of them. Because I would say I'm all 4 of those most days. Like, yep, some days I want to.
Different classes.
Some I don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Music class, you're right, I don't want to sing right now.
Right.
So it's for us, it's always looking at that data and our questions, like being intentional on that to make sure it's not an I gotcha, but the data is useful for us too to, address what that gap is.
Sure.
Jacob, I think it is also important too that we recognize what's happening in those classrooms, right? And we are in a different age. Traditional education, sitting in rows and getting delivered at, versus what Kitty was just talking about with Camp Invention, where they're just like hands-on doing things. I mean, so it's like, what does that engagement look like? And I did a assessment several years back on, are you bored in class? Are you bored here? And 60% say yes. And then that boredom then reaches to behavioral situations, attendance situations, other things along down the line. So how do we tackle that too? Because it is a different age. We have to look at things differently and we have to see where we can meet those students. And a lot of it comes down to relevancy. Like, how are we actually impacting their lives? And they need to know how that happens too as well.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's, asking some of those questions, but I also wonder, is that in line or is that something we need to ask too as well?
Right.
That's all.
Other questions?
Any other questions? Nice, thank you.
All right, so
Squadra,
for activities.
Wrap it up.
athletics, I'll wrap it up here. Participation numbers, we were at 68 participated across all activities in athletics. One thing that I also ran just to see what the number would be at is our YA students. And I only took the YA students that wouldn't be able to participate after school and what our number would go at. And that got us up to like 72%. So it's crossing the threshold of 70%. Obviously, we want to continue to grow that. And one of the main things to start next year is putting out a survey of what do kids actually want to participate in? What aren't we offering? I've had people come up to me like, oh, we should start a lacrosse team, we should start this, and I'm like, but are our kids actually engaged in that? Like, is that gonna be beneficial instead of just jumping into something? So that's something that I'll start with, beginning of the year, start figuring out what it is, and what we can offer that time.
You said YA, I'm not sure.
Oh, youth apprenticeships. Yeah, youth apprenticeships, so they have jobs they're going to after school.
So it's not counted in this.
In the 68, it's not counted, 72% it would be counted. I'm just curious if that was a huge gap for us or not. One thing I started this year was a flight crew, we call it, a student group launched to serve student activities council. So we got students from all different grade levels, genders, activities, sports, and it went awesome. Right away at the beginning, they were very quiet and like, what are we actually doing here? By the end of the year, they actually requested to do 2 times a month. We were only meeting once a month and discussing what's going on in our activities department. Now they want to do twice a month. They also want to run their own club where they get all students involved. So they start, like, we learned about mental mindset. They're teaching a lesson themselves about mental mindset. So once a month, we'll set up the lesson, then they'll do it on their own in the club. And then the next time we're talking about issues that are coming up. So that was a request from them and they're really excited for it. And I think it's gonna be a really cool thing. We got to go to the SALT conference, so Student Athlete Leadership Team conference with the WIA, and got to bring those students there. They got to see different ideas from students, how to get like a cheer section going, and just different fun things that our students are excited to do. We also partnered with Jaden and Jones. That is a platform that they're like 10-minute videos, not even, and it's actually a worksheet after it. It says, how do you feel situation? Have you ever felt that you had so much pressure you couldn't do something or didn't perform at this level? And it just walks us through different things. So the student leadership team really liked it. So I'll be running once a month sessions in the high school in the PAC where all students are welcome to come. Not just people in athletics or activities, anyone's welcome to come to that. It is geared to those activities, but all around, anyone can gain from that. Let's see if I get everything there, yeah. So then, student mindset shift. It started off with the t-shirts and why not us? And the kids loved it. Again, the first time they were like, I didn't see a lot of kids wearing it. Thought it was just another corny thing that we were gonna do. By the end, people are asking for more shirts. And just really buy it in, or I hear someone yell, why not us? So one of the shifts that they decided to go is we over me. A lot of times when we met, they said that there's a lot of people that really care about themselves, but not about the team or the culture and everything. So that's going to be the slogan this next year, we over me, and we're all coming together to do things better. We're growing the leadership team next year, just in the base set, just get more ears and eyes in there and just try to help us out. Our coaches are really buying into everything. It's really excited. I'm really excited about it because after I launched the Jaden and Jones things, just when I was talking about it, coaches asked for the logins, and they're doing it with their sports teams, and they're like, "This is just great stuff just to talk about." And just all the kids coming together to bring it up. I had multiple people like, "How do I get on that flight crew? How do I do this? How do I do that?" It was really exciting. So I said, it is a small group, but we're going to be offering like a club, so everyone gets the same access to it. So it's not just a small portion. Coaches are coming, they're going to come once a month. We're going to set up a schedule where they get to come in and talk, see different things that are happening in their sports or their careers. And we're just starting to see the shift of coaches all coming together to work together. They're talking to each other. They're making sure we understand we're sharing students and we're not overworking them. This year, it's awesome. I'll get to the floor design here in a second, but with that gym being out, we're having more coaches providing opportunities for our athletes and activities to do things. And it's becoming a nightmare on the facility side just because we're running out of room. But that's a good thing because we just have a gym shut down and they're working it all out together, not expecting all of our students to be at their stuff 24/7. And we're sharing and we're working together on that. The logo, the rebranding that has been done, kids have come up and just said thank you, and they're just really taking pride in everything. So it's really cool. So that kind of goes into our floor design. I want to share tonight. If you want to click that, it should be a shareable link there. if I did it correctly.
I believe the slideshow though.
Yeah.
Back to you.
And as he's pulling that up, they are working on painting the gym right now too. I walked in there this morning and
It goes up to the top, Dr. When you click it, it'll be up towards the top of the page.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
and just seeing the new paint of white on there has really brightened up everything. So hopefully this pulls up like I anticipated even. There we go. So that's gonna be new high school floor there. Some awesome, this is not the final drawing. There's a couple things that we've updated. The line that's going through for the side basketball court that goes through our court, right by the end there, it's a tan line. That's actually gonna be removed, just so it's less lines going through the main playing court. It actually says flyweight conference down in like the corners. It's tough to see, so we have them making those a little bigger. And it's just gonna be lighter. It's gonna look new. It's gonna go with everything that we're going with, incorporating a lot of things. So the few people I've shared it with, or even some students that caught me sharing it, are really excited about it. And just say thank you for everything that we're able to provide them. And that's what it's all about, just seeing their excitement. They're willing to do things and all that. So that should be completed by the end of July, to be open August 1st. Yeah, the hard knock on wood there. The painting is obviously the long part, because they did the ceiling too, and it's just really gonna look new and ready to go, and kids are excited for it, so.
So they're refinishing the floor. Are they also repairing some of those dead spots and stuff?
Yeah, so yeah, they're gonna take care of all that. They actually put new doors in too, the exterior doors. They were finding there was drift problems, and that was causing a lot of humps in the floor and just a lot of issues with it. So they got it resealed, and then they're gonna, once they take off all those coats of varnish and take a look at the condition of what it is, they're gonna replace some spots there, yeah.
All right. Any questions for the group? Before you all leave, I just want to say it's so humbling, and I'm speaking as a testimony, as a mentor, a coach, evaluator, watching these individuals work. And I'm so humbled by what they have done in such a short period of time. And you see the numbers, you see the stats, you see all these things, but there's so much under the hood that I can't share. We can't share everything with you right now. We'd be here forever. But their hearts are all in the right space. And being able to work with a team like this and knowing the bus is all going that right direction with people who all have different strength sets and building upon each other and all data driven for kids. It's so refreshing. It makes my job so much easier and understanding that, but also like learning from them too. I've learned so much from their work and what they brought. They all are doing hard things every day. And I can't say enough for that leadership. And leadership's tough, as you all know. It's not an easy ride. And many times you feel singled out and soloed. And yet I think the other cool thing about this group, they're starting to collectively come together. And this is about the continuum that we've talked about since the moment I've gotten this district, is like, how do we bring people together better? And honestly, the relationship with the individuals in this room has just strengthened, and it's getting better and better every day. And they lean in on each other, they work with each other, and that's how we get this stuff done. We can't do it alone either in each one of our buildings. And again, I'm just very grateful for this team, what they do, what they bring, and how they inspire and influence the people that we, make happen for our kids. So we're fortunate to have this group right in front of us and celebrate them and for what they've done, because it's not easy work. And yet I thought it was a phenomenal year, and the short period of time that we've had collectively as 1 year as a group, we saw significant changes, and I can only see that only getting better in the years to come here. The foot's still on the gas pedal, and they all are there and want to make it happen. And I know they'll tirelessly continue to do it, but they're in this for the right reason for our kids. So I appreciate all of you, all your work, everything that you do. Words can't express how much you really mean to me and what you mean to this district. So thank you.
I guess I would just add, I don't like to speak for the whole board, but I think I'm safe in speaking for the whole board, saying we're very proud of this leadership team. confident you guys are taking us in the right place. And anytime we talk to anybody outside the district or in the district, we think the team we have in place now compared to a few years ago is just an amazing change, positive. So thanks.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to add to it, at the convention in January, the state convention, I was walking by the school perceptions booth and somebody grabbed me and brought me by some equipment that I wasn't quite sure it all was, but doing short interviews to do a podcast, which came out a few weeks later. And one of the questions asked is what I was most proud of currently, what was happening in my district. And I mentioned the same thing, that we've had a lot of good leaders over the years, but as a group, as a whole, right now, I have, in my 32 years as a school board member, I've never seen it be working like it is now, and how great you all are together. And just the fact that you're willing to work with each other is somewhat novel in this district. I want to make that point too, and that's awesome.
All right, anything else? Obviously, you're more than willing to stay. Quadra, if you can just stay for a second while we approve those, those things, but thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I will.
Have a good night.
So I'm gonna turn to this last part, athletics, activities handbooks. In terms of co-curriculars, athletic activities. We've got Matt here right now. Were there any questions on any of that you looked over? Again, he highlighted just the things that were changes, so you didn't have to read the whole thing over again. So was there anything that you need any more clarification from him before moving forward with what we have there?
I just, it's so helpful in the highlighting part.
Yes,
No, seriously.
I
yes.
appreciated that too.
Yeah, other than that, no, I think the adjustments made sense.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Matt? All right, that's all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want to comment before moving on to the next things, and this is just in terms of team building and things like that. But we had a retreat a couple weeks ago, and you got to bring people together. You got to break down some of those, barriers and the challenges, and just not knowing each other as in depth is also important. It's just like having a great team. And I think and I'm seeing it in terms of like how they're relationally working with each other, how they're contacting each other. And one of the focuses at the retreat was, what are our strengths? And it could be specific strengths, even like logistics, Dwayne's knocking it out on the behavior side. What are you doing, Dwayne? So how do we address that? What can we do differently? And then, who can we go to? And they all make commitments about going to each other for learning more, and also strength that they have that other people can come to them, which was a pretty awesome moment too, just to see that. And we're reviewing again tomorrow morning as we were meeting, but that's how this happens. And again, you got to keep coaching, you got to keep mentoring, but I really feel like these people are relentless gamers who are going to do anything possible to make a difference in our worlds. So like you said, Steve, I think this is honestly, in the years that I've been in this, some of the best overall, all around good group heading in that right direction. So we're very fortunate in this district to make that happen. Okay. I'm gonna float around here just to make sure I cover everything. Are there any questions in any of the student fees, food service pricing, Oriole zone rates that I can help out with or clarify?
Nothing was changed from it. The only recommendation that I'd have is, I know in the 4K world, it looks like, I'm guessing a half a rate. Is that, I know we're trying to build a program here. I'm wondering if that's, in all fairness, a rate that we maybe would waive for the 4K program. And the reason behind it is let them see the experience they can have coming here, and also from a cost perspective, it's like $1,200 if there's 41 people, and I think it just gives us an advantage for people that want to come within this 4K program. Just a thought.
So the potential gain in revenue would be 12
41
Minimum.
times 18.
Yeah.
So, so I just feel like it also allows, like, as we build this program, right, if we ever get to a point where it is a full year, you know what I mean, then maybe we can relook at that, but I think for now, it gives one less thing that group would have to do to come into the district, so just my only thing, other than that, I don't know, I think the rest look fine.
Matt, I'd like to talk a little bit about something I've been talking with Matt about, also at the state convention. This year I attended a breakout session by the Chartwell's vice president from somewhere out east, but the Menasha School District business manager, and they run a universal free food program, lunch, breakfast, and they're even talking about their after-school program adding or just piloting an evening or early evening type of program, and they do it, and the program's in the black. They're not losing money by doing it. Nobody pays anything to eat at school. And I thought, that's something maybe we could explore. Because a concept, all we're doing with achievement here, hunger, students that are hungry can't learn the same as those that aren't. And with our, as I found out, not the highest, but our lower socioeconomic status as a district, that might be also helpful to do. So I got a lot of the information and stuff to Monica and Matt, and amongst all the busy stuff that they've been doing all year, they did take a look at it, and Monica actually engaged with somebody with, there's a different name there, but basically the Chartwell's hierarchy.
Yeah.
And a lot of most of it's based on federal reimbursements, of course, and kind of boil it all down, the higher the poverty rate is in your district, the more this is would work for you. In Menasha, they have probably 50% higher poverty rate than we do here, and that's what's driving them be able to be in the black. And then, not to get into much of the details, but the numbers that she found out that they ran for our district, it would have been costly to us to just start out doing it. And there are opportunities possibly with surplus in the food budget area, and you don't want to do it 1 year and then have to pull back the next stuff. So
When you say costly, yeah, ballpark.
Yeah, it would be around 250,000
Yeah.
that we'd be putting back into it. Now, we have a surplus right now, but again, you do that on the annual, that surplus is gone in 2 years, basically, if that. So there are ways of like, even thinking about a reduction of cost, in that way too. So those are just some things we have to look at a little bit closer moving forward, but the changes are not anything this year yet. So as we gain more surplus, we could probably explore some of those other areas a little bit more. And I appreciate Steve bringing that forward and at least looking at it. I also thank Monica for checking in and doing due diligence. Like Menasha's at like 72% free and reduced. We're somewhere in the 45, 46. So they're able to play that a little bit, but I mean, obviously it'd be great if all kids have that ability to have without, and just so everybody knows here too, we do a lot of chasing in terms of getting funds back from families, and some we still don't get through collection agencies and everything else. And so it's a tough topic of trying to retrieve some funds and just trying to get back from other individuals within the district who are just not coming back forward with them. But
so what would that $250,000, what does that equal? Like, is that free lunch?
If everything went free.
For everybody?
Okay,
I just want to make sure I was following.
Yeah, for everybody, and then that would be basically a reduction in the federal reimbursement money that we get. That's where the cost would come. So, but I was encouraged because both Matt and Monica are more than happy to keep looking at it, and as situations might change or funding, different things happen. And like Matt said, maybe partial, some type of, things we can add that might be helpful to families. So, that they're willing to look at it, that they weren't against it at all. So I really appreciate that.
And even with the percentage of free and reduced lunch that have, that's the free and reduced lunch that are actually reporting.
Sure.
So there might be some individuals in that category that are not reporting it or not filling out the paperwork, even though we're sending paperwork nonstop. It's for whatever reason, there's so many reasons that fall into that, then those individuals unfortunately fall into the debt or other areas that doesn't help them or their kids moving forward, unfortunately.
Historically, one of the main reasons of that is just people being too proud to fill out the forms or provide their information and turn that into, they don't know where maybe that's gonna all end up. And there's also culturally, there's groups that are very proud and don't wanna ask for help. And so that all affects. And then over the years, we've done different types of things to motivate, to get more people to sign up for free and reduced, but it doesn't always work that way. But I thought this was a good time to bring that up because of
That's good, yeah.
the fees that we're approving tonight. Thanks.
John, I do like that, like taking the 4K out. I mean, just hearing that, because obviously as we're growing this and we're, just not necessarily growing, but just making it a opportunity experience, a transition. I think that sounds like a good plan. And again, for the amount of money that we're gaining out of it, I don't think it's something that we need yet out of that as well. So
Yeah, just an idea to get.
Yep.
Kind of like our soft start we do in the summer, but it's a soft start for the family to kind of get bought into the district if they haven't had experience as well. One less limitation. And so from just one more question on, because I'm really interested in that, like from our surplus in that fund, does that just, how do we gain surplus in that fund? Other than, you know what I mean? Is that, is that a fund that we can add money to from our surplus? Or does it have to come directly from food?
it has to come from food. Okay, you can take out of your general 10, but then you're getting to the operational side of things that just don't play out that well, but yes, but usually we're getting X amount per year based on what's coming out.
Sure, okay, that makes sense.
We, in the past too, and this is like in my first couple of years here, like some of those dollars are used to purchase kitchen equipment, fix kitchen equipment, get refrigerators, and those are costly, right? So that stuff goes pretty fast. So you gotta consider those things too in the long bit of it. But the state's also watching that fund balance to say, like, if it gets to too high, they want something actually done with that food service budget. So okay. All right, I'm gonna flip up to Act 89 and 57. This is an anomaly a little bit, but we have to have these things done by July, and there are two acts that are pushed out by the state. And I'll show you both of them, and maybe you've had a chance to look at this or whatnot, but Act 57, this is really coming down to notification of parents when a report of sexual misconduct by a staff member is received. Okay, so what that means though is after there's an investigation and there's a legitimate reason to say that this is linked to this versus just saying, okay, Jacob's, automatically can, and you're calling the parents and saying, yes, this is what it's only after the consideration and law enforcement involved in this to actually make that next step. But this is getting back to statewide in terms of our certification and other teachers and DPI reporting. That's why this is coming full throttle forward from state legislators as well, that if we we are not only reporting to the families eventually, but if it actually is confirmed and everything else, then we definitely are saying it to the state so that they can also notify appropriately to the people that are.
And when you say families, that's all families or just the impacted family?
Just the impacted family. Because what was happening, John, is like these investigations would happen and then nothing would come out of it sometimes, or maybe something did and they were just waiting too long on it, and their kids are like going through this hardship and they have no idea.
Yeah.
So
that's how I read it. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. And so in this whole profile, there's other of these other changes, they're components that they've shifted, either taken out or changed some language based upon 57 and 89. So I'm not going through all of these things because all of these other ones on here are related to both of those two different acts. Okay. Act 89, moving on to that one just really quickly. This is the grooming scenarios where staff and communication between employees and students during and outside school hours is, definitely monitored, and the law mandates annual staff training to help school personnel identify, prevent, and report grooming behaviors and professional boundary violations. Furthermore, it requires schools to establish clear consequences for those violations, which can include termination of employment, which we've already had in our policies. It's just now it's fine-tuned based upon the information that's coming out here now.
Is that training, who provides that?
We provide that back to our staff. So like in the beginning of the school year, there are mandated trainings at all of our staff, from simple as blood-borne pathogens to reporting, any kind back to CPS and other, or as a mandated reporter. This will be another one of those included into this. So it's just saying like, hey, so this is what the expectation is. And again, this day and age, unfortunately, communication is too easily done between individuals, and we have to remind and tell and basically say, here's how we expect things to happen at the schools. And if they're going to step outside of that, they're potentially putting themselves in a situation where they could easily, and it's the student's word against them at the end of the day. It's not like we can't do anything to help them or save them within those areas.
So is that, do we give guidance in our training to say like, how we communicate via apps and things like that?
Yes.
Like I know a lot of teams or activities will use like Team Reach or, so it's like use something that's considered to be, safe, right? In that context.
Yeah, and this might lead us to establishing something through like IC as well, where students can communicate to the teacher, but there's no like back and forth really other than through email or message or whatever. So it's like a safe place. Or the teacher has office hours during the specific time. And so you can see and monitor all that information as well, but it's specific to what's happening in those areas.
Like these platforms. Right. Email, like school email or whatever.
Yeah, and that's, if you get down further into this, like that's still appropriate. Like a teacher can communicate to a student can communicate to, but it's all open records anyway, so that if there was any reason to believe, we could, go after and see any of those documents at any time too. But just acknowledging and letting our staff know, like, be mindful and be careful what you write, what you say, what you do. It's incredibly important. Any other questions on those two? But again, that's state where we've got to get that through. And so it's not like a first reading, second reading. It's like literally moving on it so we can move forward with that as well. Okay. The last two things I have, and you might have seen this, I think I sent this way earlier to the actual committee. But what we intend to do is get out, and what we said at the end of the summit is a white paper, just kind of explaining to our community and others who are part of this, what the Let's Fly Forward Summit was about, and what were some of the outcomes of it, what are the next steps, and all of that's included in this. Jacob, you get a look at that.
Geez, look
Wow.
at
Was John in here too? Oh, look at John's in there too. John's in there too. No, but what it is basically showing is a recap of everything, recommendations of where we need to go, and just, the next steps that we plan to go through with them. And this is one of the steps. So right now, we're going to get this out on the website, of course, Facebook, those kind of things. I'm contemplating, do we ship this out to everybody? I mean, that's a cost, and I don't know how much people will get into this, but I think it kind of serves some of the conversations that we had at the summit. Like, some of these people are not receiving Facebook. Some of these people are not on our website. We don't have that communication. So sending something out to our mailing population might be an okay thing
Yeah,
too
so
as
they're
well.
going to break it down, so it's, you know, so if we mail this whole thing, it's costly, and also,
Yeah.
I don't think people are gonna read it, right? I think it's like lengthy, so unless you're really passionate about it, you're not gonna be like, I'm gonna read this thing, so is there a way we could do like a,
One pager.
yeah, or like a, not a postcard, but like what kind of we sent out for that, has some specifics that are, I mean, we're not gonna capture everything, but the important things, I guess, I don't know.
And then you can even point them to our
To
website,
read the full thing.
like if
Or
they
here's a
want,
QR code if you want to read the whole
yeah,
thing
or
too.
QR it, yeah. Just, I like that idea.
Okay.
Like you said, unless they're extremely passionate about
Yeah.
reading all of it, but you also still give them that opportunity to do that if they'd like.
Okay.
I don't know, what does everyone else think?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do a one pager, you're gonna lose some stuff, but you focus on the stats and the engagement
Mm-hmm.
and things like that.
Mhm.
And then you wanna learn more, right there. That's what the white paper's for, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I will work on that. I'll show you all before I send that out, but it shouldn't take too long to put that together and.
Yeah, and on this, I didn't have any, I don't know if anyone else had any other feedback, if they had a chance to go through it. I mean, it's a lot of information,
Yeah.
but I think it
Yeah.
captured,
I think it's good. I also think it's like really high level, right? Like I think if we're sending this out, like population in the community, they might not always understand some of those
For sure.
like language and
For
stuff.
sure.
So
For sure.
I do think like if we can simplify it, if we
Yep.
do a little postcard or whatever, that's better. But yeah, I appreciated everything that was put into this and putting it all together so we could see it all in one place.
Awesome. Okay. Next thing on the docket that is in that in terms of like next steps. And I just started creating a basic overall view of a possibility for, you know, people in the community to come in and really check out what's kind of underneath the hood in terms of our school district. And so again, this is not something I've created from scratch. This is other school districts have done this and have had a lot of success with it. But creating an academy where people can come in and learn a lot about what's happening within, you know, Oriole Nation and the NFDL school district. So this is a real like user-friendly doc where it's hyperlinked. It talks about who should apply, what the participants will do. It's a 9-month scenario where each month, one day a month for an hour and a half, people will come together. There's a different topic. It shows about time commitment. We want applications because historically these groups that have done that, there's a lot of people who do sign up for it. So you say then anybody after that will start another one next year, keep this thing rolling as well, just for sake of time and making sure things are done that way. Let me just grab here just a second. So this is the schedule and just putting it out there. It'll be Thursdays, different topics for each, from just a welcome to teaching and learning one time to student voice, student services, whole child, so that's SEL, school finance and operations, board governance, policy, legislative impact. So I might need you all to come in and be guest speakers. And then safety, culture, trust, future ready, like careers, connecting with life beyond graduation, and then reflection, celebration, and community action at the end of it as a potential tool. I would be facilitating a lot of these things, other than saying I'd be getting the right personnel in the room to like run them and to make them engaging for them. Really, I want it to be hands-on and they can participate, but at the same time, learn a bunch of what we're doing.
So, Matt, who is the target audience of this? Like, some people that maybe attended the
Yes.
summit or?
Absolutely, because I mean, if you look at some of the people that attended the summit, they had their own ideations of like what they thought from their perspective, right? And from what they know. We didn't really get into like, here's everything that's happening here.
Is
If
this
you notice that as well.
intended to be like a one-directional communication? It, like, you get to see what we do, less about interaction, or?
No, I want the interact
Both,
or both. Like, I hope that, you know, the meeting or when they come in to see what we do, we are having dialogue and conversation about like, so what are your thoughts? What do you see? What questions do you have? How can we make this better? Those kind of things from their from their angle. Another thing that I thought John brought up at one point in time too, it would be really cool if one of the individuals or people would rotate, that they would come up that same month or the month later and present to the board and say, hey, I'm a community member. I'm in the Oriole Academy. This is what we learned last month. And just like 3 or 4 bullet points and just talking on behalf of that group, but also encouraging people to come and be part of either our boards or, you know, more of just less of understanding the narrative of what's going on behind the scenes as well.
And would it be like in our schools somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's like showing them in real time, like some of these things happening and where we're
Sure.
at. I mean, even from the special ed arena, like I think people have no clue, like some of our areas and locations of what our kids and families and our staff are doing every single day in those pockets. So.
And is it going to tie back to like the summit?
Yes.
So like, I think just tying it back to like, hey, these were things we talked about. Here are the top 2 things about that. This is more detail.
Right.
And then, I don't know, somehow having something like, whether it's here sharing to us, I mean, it's great for us to know. I'd love to have more people join our board meetings, but also like, how do we get that information out then? You know what I mean? Like now that, hey, this is a topic you may have heard about when looking at that flyer that we send out. Here's even more detail on what it means inside the school. I don't know. I think it's just that there's an education standpoint there that might be helpful.
It'd be cool if like maybe if and this is me just thinking off the top, and maybe a couple individuals can just write up a quick synopsis and we can get it out to people, like either web-based or Facebook or,
We do that. We did. I mean, I'm gonna go back to when we had an opportunity to be on the board back in the day.
Okay.
And we did where we got to present on a few topics and got interviewed by Oriole.
Yeah.
The crew, the kids that run I think that's cool too, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's a neat thing that we do. And then, I don't know, for me, I'd rather listen to something from there or two. You know what I mean?
Right. That's a good idea.
From someone.
I think it's an awesome idea. You get them actually in here and hear it, you know, there's so many misconceptions or things that they just assume are this way or that way, and then they actually find out through this. And it's kind of in its own way similar to police departments that do the Citizens Academy where they ride along with officers and they no longer think of them as a guy hiding around the corner that's gonna give them a ticket and that's all they're doing. You know, they actually see the day-to-day stuff. So I think it's an excellent program that would draw a lot of interest to it.
Yeah, you know, and obviously people at Summit, obviously welcome, but anybody outside of our community too, like,
Yeah, it's that,
I'm not gonna stop.
that general, like anyone, right?
Right.
Like that's the.
Right. I think we need to look at too, just for variance too, in terms of who is that anyone, so we get some different voices in the room as
Yeah.
well. So I think we're just gonna have to watch who applies, who brings in, and then from that. And then with the idea that if you didn't get in this year, we got another shot next year to do the same thing.
I guess that was gonna be a follow-up question is what, if you're taking a set number, is that 6 or is it 30?
25, it's in here.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's-
right in the 25, like a 25 belt. I think it's like a decent amount. It's not too much, it's not too crazy. It's under 30, you can handle
Okay,
and put that forward.
that feels a little bit like a lot
Yeah.
to me, but I know that in the school zone, we're used to dealing with 20 to 30 people at a time, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's leading and teaching just like we did that summit though too.
Yeah.
Like engaging at tables, we're moving them around, we're getting them, you know, it's not gonna be sit and get for an hour and a half. And like then sharing out and learning from each other within that time and meeting new people too. I think just have a little bit of change up every time too, so you're not sitting with the same group every single time. You can rotate it just like we did those 2 nights. I mean, so we can model a lot of what we're doing there as well.
I think, as a board member, I'd like to have the opportunity to see it in action too,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
So,
You're always welcome to come to that, or, and I don't know, that might be a question, like, do you want to do we have
Yeah,
like a couple people participate every single year, you know, just so have that, you can hear what people are saying and you can hear more from some of those players that maybe you haven't heard from before yet either. So.
but at the very least, I'd like to ad hoc come in, you know what I mean? Because, you know, based on time commitments and things like that.
Right.
That sounds interesting.
There's been the schools who have done it have found really good success with it.
Mhm.
And it just fosters that sense of, okay, we're not trying to close our doors. We're trying to tell you what's going on here. This never happened before, but we want to open those doors too, that you can participate, be with us, have conversations, figure out how we get to those endpoints where, like we talked about, those urgencies, and many of those urgencies are being addressed in one way or another already, but like, how might we make them better? But they can hear that in real time with those individuals. You guys get to hear that every single month,
Mhm.
a little bit more in depth where they can't yet.
Yep.
So we'll start promoting. I guess my question is, like, obviously we want to get something in the books. Obviously September is the first time. I mean, in July, I think we got to get that out there so people can start seeing it, or maybe even soon, too, as well. Like, I just want to make sure we have enough time to get that out and people can have that
Can
opportunity.
you put it on that postcard?
Mhm.
Like, I think just,
Yeah.
here's the continuation if you didn't
Yep,
know
good
about the
idea.
summit.
Great.
As long as that timing works.
Right.
Awesome.
Kind of it creates that connection too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you for feedback and input on that. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything here. All right, that's what I got.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is new business. So we've got 7 items to consider. The first one is consider approval of the following high school activities and activities handbook. And it's from the 26-27 year. So as mentioned before, they're attached to the board packet. So looking for approval for those updates and considerations. So for a motion,
I'll make a motion.
I can second. So when you're ready, Rick? I did. Yep, John.
Matthew, yes. Ackerman,
Yes.
Gellens,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Ackerman.
Yes.
Then we have consider approval of Act 89 and 57 policy updates that Dr. Mino just went through with us. So I will look for a motion to approve those updates.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Hoffner,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Matthew, yes. Gellens,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes. Third item is consider approval of the new hires from closed session. So we have 4 new hires to approve today. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce last names, but Megan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Merkel. Merkel.
Yep.
All right, Megan Merkel, Jessica Noble, Tony Prus, and Luke Mathias.
Matthias?
Matthias, there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Gellens,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Matthew, yes. Hoffner,
Yes.
Ackerman.
Yes. Next item is consider approval of the following resignations from closed session. So we have 3 resignations to approve. One is for Mr. Lee Score from BAMS, and then Aaron Luther from FLC, and Jarrett Simonson. So looking for a motion to approve those resignations.
So moved.
Second.
Matthew, yes. Hoffner,
Yes.
Gellens,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
All right, 5th item is consider approval of student and activity fees for 26-27 school year. So we'll look for a motion to approve.
Do we need to make that modification?
Yep, amendment, we're in agreement with we'll make a motion to amend the 4K to free.
And pass
Yeah,
it. Make it the motion to change it and pass it in one.
yep, yep. So the motion will be for changing the language to show the 4K moving from $18 a year, the fee, to 0. And then for all fees as well in the approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Hoffner.
Yes.
Gellens.
Yes.
Matthew, yes. Hawk,
Yes.
Ackerman.
Yes. Sixth item is consider approval of breakfast and lunch rates for 26-27 school year, as stated in our board packet. So look for a motion for that.
So moved.
I'll second.
Matthew, yes. Geckerman,
Yes.
Gillings,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hunker.
Yes.
And the final item on new business is consider approval of Oriole zone rate for 26-27 school year. So look for a motion for that item. I can make the motion.
Second.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Gillings,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Matthew, yes. Hunker.
Yes.
All right, that concludes our new business. We are now gonna go back into closed session to finish, the scheduled items that, we ran out of time with. So, thank you for everyone that's listening. And we'll look for a motion to move to closed session at 8:12 PM today.
So moved?
I don't know if we need a motion because we just recessed.
Yes, that's right.
No motion, okay, well, then we'll go to closed session.
Here we go.
Thank you.
All right, good night, everybody.